Welcome back, people, to episode 21 of the Living Room Chat podcast with Ryan and Matt, and for the first time, a guest that's reappeared.
Oh, my first reappearance.
You are.
Yeah, you made it back for take two.
Yeah.
Take two.
Everyone loved you the first episode that you did. When was it? It was about a couple months ago, wasn't
It
it?
was the foot pics, I think.
Yeah, that's what does it.
Put a photo in the description.
Yes.
Back to 21.
Cool.
Firing through after last week's 20th bumper episode. I enjoyed that one.
I did, yeah, it's fun. Well, we said it's fun getting guests on. It's just a nice way to mix it up.
Absolutely.
You don't get bored talking to each other.
Yeah,
No,
we run out of things.
We don't really get... Do we get bored? I don't get bored.
No, not really.
But at the same time, it's still...
Good to
refreshing.
mix it up.
Yeah, just get a bit of a different vibe going. Anyway. But Matt, what have we got in store for this episode?
Well, I wanted to just have a bit of a rant. I know we ranted about solicitors a couple of weeks ago, and I had an incident yesterday with solicitors, which pissed me off, but we've ranted about them already, so I wanted to rant more generally about leasehold and why it sucks, and I think all estate agents hate dealing with them.
I agree with that. I wanted to talk about Well, dog's gone. For those visual listeners, audio would have no idea that he was here.
You might hear his little...
Pitter patter.
I want to talk. It was something I heard or picked up recently about. Obviously, the estate agency industry isn't regulated at all in the UK, and whether that will be a good thing or a bad thing. So I was interested to get your views and yours, Lauren, as well.
Is this on the brink of the new Selling Sunset series coming out? Have you been watching it without me?
I started to watch it.
That's exactly.
It's so good, isn't it?
Well, do you think it's good, or does it make you cringe, or like?
Oh,
what?
100% cringe. But my guilty pleasure is reality TV, so
It's a good fit for you then.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I like the houses. Like, I like the way it works. You just think, geez, like.
I confess, I've never seen it, but you said new series. You want me to watch it as well with you?
Yeah.
I think it'd be quite funny.
The women are beautiful in it, and they wear hardly anything. So.
Why do I need to look at beautiful women? I've got you.
Do you reckon it's real though? Do you reckon they're actually agents?
It's got to be it's got to be a bit commercialised, isn't it? Like, it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think the sales are real. They can't. Like, there is the actual group. It's called the Oppenheim Group, I think.
Yeah.
That is a real place, but I think the drama and the stuff that surrounds it is like any other reality where they set things up and.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It has nothing to do with my point in regulating the industry, but it'd be interesting to hear your views, so we can talk about that. I also a question I wanted to ask you, which we'll get onto, is if a seller approached you and had a certain amount of money to spend, we'll talk about how much. What advice would you give on what the best options are to spend the money on? And the reason that's come about is we've had a couple of quotes for things in our house now. Obviously, we're sat in my living room now, but we've had quotes for windows, getting a quote for the garden, getting a quote for the drive.
Don't look too hard; they're awful.
Yeah, we haven't done the
I
windows.
was going to say, you haven't had any quotes to get some artwork up in here, like I've been talking
No,
about.
we can't find any.
We haven't really looked.
I'd look.
Anyway, so what money can we spend? What money would you advise people to spend on their house to make it perfectly sellable? It's a good option.
Okay, I reckon that's a good place to start.
Okay. Well, this is the picture then. So, a seller approaches you and says, Matt Barrell, I have £5,000 to spend on my house before I put it on the market. What shall I do to increase the value and make it more saleable?
What type of house is it? Like a standard
Any house you
3-bed?
want.
Well,
It's a hypothetical situation.
So as you know, I'm selling my house soon. And
Yes.
so I'm going through this sort of audit of every room and like what needs doing. And I reckon my advice, and this is the advice I'm giving myself, is do the jobs that buyers can call you out on. So anything that's like a bit of a red flag, or a buyer's probably going to walk around and be like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
So in my house, like there was some skirting board which was just loose, like there was like a cracked windowsill.
Yeah.
Like two down lights didn't work in my bathroom. So like those kind of things.
So small TLC jobs.
Yeah, I'm fixing. But stuff like marks on the walls.
You're going to leave.
Yeah, the stuff which is just wear and tear.
Yeah.
But the stuff which is like, oh, that's broken, this is broken.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense, yeah. I think that's good advice to give. What about you, Lauren? What would you offer advice to people if they said, I've got £5,000 to spend to make my house more saleable? What would you advise them to do?
I think the stuff that Matt said, I think generally most people can do bits like that themselves.
Yeah.
I think, but with the £5,000, £5,000 isn't a lot of money.
No, I know, but it's.
I think.
Not many people would spend that though before putting a house on the market.
Yeah, that's true. I think if it can stretch to a fresh coat of paint throughout the house, that always goes down well. Also, my pet hate in bathrooms is when there's mould.
Yeah.
Paint the bathroom, redo the grout, sealant, whatever
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is. If the bath panel's naff, get rid of that. It might just be my thing. Kitchens and bathrooms for me are things that I focus more on.
And I think buyers are like that as well. If there's a lot more, if the kitchen and bathroom's good, they're the big ticket items, aren't they?
Yeah.
They look like they can be managed for a few years. It almost really, decor-wise, people can get on with.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Do you think it happens? Do you think it makes a difference with seasonal markets? Because obviously it's a beautiful sunny day in the middle of May at the moment, or towards the end of May. We're coming into the summer months. People are looking to sell. Would it be worth investing in a garden to come around and make the garden looking great, jet wash the patio, get some new garden furniture to sort of sell the dream of the garden? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it depends on what you're... Like, I never want someone to spend £1 unless we know for sure that pound's coming back in a sale price. So, buying garden furniture just for that garden, that to me is risky. Buying garden furniture you love, which you're going to take to the next house, that's much safer.
But I mean, kind of almost stage the property a little bit more, because obviously we know it's a competitive market. I hear what you're saying, you don't want people to spend money and waste it, but at the same time, if you've got a house that's very similar to everything else, you need to have those little niches.
I definitely think curb appeal as well, the front of houses. Like our property is not a pretty house. It's not.
That's fucking ugly, isn't it?
It is, it's disgusting.
It was like 4 minutes before we swore.
I looked at your neighbours though, and you've got the steeper driveway and they don't.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
They've got a big bush there.
Yeah, out the front. I noticed it was a very different looking.
Yeah.
It's the same
It kind of
house,
levels off a little bit, and then the hill just drops down.
Yeah. But I think curb appeal, when people are pulling up, a lot of people do like a drive-by before they do the viewing as well.
Yeah.
I think make sure all your blinds, nets, whatever you have in the window are straight. From the act, just go and stand outside your house and just look at it and sort of...
And pick fault in it and then get those sorted. That's good. That's good idea.
Basic things that do make a difference. Stick a fake plant out the front.
Yeah, I think it's just getting rid of those things that buyers can sort of complain about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I sold a property recently that was a little bit... It was old, it was fine, but it had scuffs and, like the door handles were probably 30 years old and stuff like that. One buyer walks in there and goes, "Oh, I don't like this, everything's a bit tatty and old." The next buyer walked in there and just loved it and it suited them and they were looking past all of that.
And that's the big point there. It doesn't matter how much you do, it's kind of depends on the person who comes to view the house, isn't it, ultimately?
Yeah.
And I think it depends on the style of the house. Like if you've got like a 2-bed flat and in a new build and it's supposed to be new and people walk in and it's tatty and not looked after, it's just not appealing.
I agree. Well, that's interesting. It was interesting to hear.
Yeah, I've talking about price with people recently. I've been saying that the first thing people look at with the house is where it is, location. Can't do anything about that.
No.
Second thing is how many bedrooms. Again, you can't really do anything about that. What you can do something about is the price you put it on at.
Yeah.
And you can also do something about the work you do before going on the market.
Yeah.
So I think, investing in making it look as good as possible is
absolutely
money well spent.
Absolutely.
And I think as well, noting, the phrase "you can't polish a turd." I think when it is your house is a turd, maybe you leave it as a turd, but price it right.
Don't. Because when people come to sell sometimes, it's like, "Oh, shall I put a new kitchen in?" It's like, no, you should have put a new kitchen in 5 years ago when you moved in, because then you'd be able to enjoy the kitchen for 5 years before you sell it.
Putting a new kitchen in, but then all your doors are hanging off the hinges probably isn't going to make any
difference.
Yeah.
To spend elsewhere, isn't there?
Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm intrigued to hear your issues with leasehold properties in general, because we've been fortunate in our business for the last year. We've got one leasehold going through at the moment, and that's the only one we've dealt with that's sold. We haven't dealt with any flats. Oh, Skelton Court.
Bonamy Court?
Bonamy. Okay, cool. So scrap that. We've sold a few.
Flats.
But we've not had any major issues. We've got one going through at the moment, but most of our properties have been freehold houses in the area. But I know you haven't had such luxuries.
No, so most of my sales have been leasehold, and lots of them, to be fair, have been fine. But as you know, the solicitors play such a key part in making stuff happen.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with leasehold that maybe you don't know when you're getting on the property market, most people will look at leasehold because it's cheaper than freehold. But leases are just so complicated, and there's so many areas where it can get complicated. Solicitors don't like stuff, mortgage lenders don't like stuff, and it all just conspires to take away my commission, which makes me very sad.
Because there's so many moving parts, isn't there? You've got the freeholder, you've got the management company, you've got the lender, you've got the solicitor, the buyer, the seller, and obviously a little old agent at the bottom with their opinions. But there's so... Whereas when it's just a freehold, it's just literally buyer and seller and solicitor. There's so many more people involved. Have you got a particular issue that has happened that you want to rant about, or is it just in general?
It's probably quite boring, the thing I had yesterday. But
say it anyway, and then we can cut it out if it's really boring.
So on Kent Island, you mentioned last week, was it week before, your first sale was Drake Way in Kent Island?
Yeah, 3 number 4 Drake Way.
So this one is on a Kent Island block of a similar age, and there's the lease, and there's another lease, and there's another lease, and then there's a head lease.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a clause in that head lease which no mortgage lenders will accept. So
Helpful.
after 3 months into the transaction, we now find out we need a deed of variation.
Yeah.
And it's just upset the seller. The solicitor's been like, we can't deal with this. You need to go off and sort it yourself. So I'm there, like, as the agent, expecting my commission this month, being like, how do I fix this? But getting a deed of variation between two parties, which isn't my client, the seller, it's the freeholder at the top and the next lease.
It's next to impossible. Little old you can't make those calls.
Yeah.
You can't even get to speak to anyone to deal with it. That's the problem.
And I'm like, in no way could I have seen this coming.
Why do they do that? Why? Who is that of benefit to, though? Like, making it this complicated?
I think in this instance, it's because part of the block is shared ownership, part is not.
Okay.
And it's I'm not sure exactly how this is made up.
This is you know, you said gripe with solicitors more than anything, and we talked about that before, so we won't bring up again. But that is a solicitor's situation to deal with.
It absolutely is, yeah.
That absolutely is. They need to deal with that.
Because I try and get as involved as I can with like basic lease terms.
Yeah.
Just to let buyers know, you know, like the ground rent thing has come into play recently, where the terms of the ground rent, when it escalates, how much it escalates by, I need to know that up front. So I do ask my sellers for a copy of the lease. Yeah. But I can't read through that whole thing. No. And I'm not even qualified to translate it.
You can't advise on it either, can you? It's just frustrating.
I think
really
from
frustrating.
Personal experience, when we bought and sold Skelton Court, it was almost like you had to jump through so many hoops to get to the starting line, and then you get to the starting line and they're like, oh, hang on a minute, 6 years ago you didn't tick this box, so now you're done. And you're like, it's only a bit of paper. Like, it's bizarre.
I think leases as a general term are an issue. You know, I'm not a fan of them, and I always try and advise people, if you're ever going to try and buy somewhere, try and buy a freehold. Leases, I think it is an element of luck. Big, massive developments like Kent Island or places like that, there's so many moving parts. I just feel like they're difficult. Whereas we've just listed a flat in Central Reading, which is a Victorian conversion. It's a leasehold, and there's a freeholder, but there's 2 occupiers. Yeah. The lease is like a quarter of what a Kent Island lease would be in terms of length. It's so simple. I know there'll be no issues. Yeah. Touch wood.
Well, that's more of like an older arrangement when they're not so like onerous and they're not just trying to.
Absolutely.
Whereas these like a gentleman's agreement almost.
Yeah.
Just jotted down, and that's fine, and that's stood for, you know, whatever it's been on there for. But places like Kent Island, where you've got massive corporations, massive companies, and so many leasees within developments, it's just going to cause issues. And there's so much red tape that you won't even know, because no one's going to read through the entire lease.
No.
Do you think?
Surprises.
I never remember it being this bad.
Well, I feel like it got really bad in like the last 20 years in terms of companies just being like out to make a buck and screw people.
Yeah.
So things like 125-year leases with ground rent which goes up every 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things just seem really, really unfair to the leaseholder.
Yeah.
So I don't see how it can go on.
No.
Like this.
Well, they've been talking about it for ages to kind of restructure that and get rid of leases or get rid of that situation. But like, there's bigger fish to fry at the moment, isn't there? That's the problem.
Yeah. I did a poll on my Instagram about if you're a leaseholder, how happy are you with your service charge arrangements?
Yeah.
And like, the majority of people just can't stand it.
Shit.
Yeah. I've never met a happy leaseholder who's like, yeah, I pay my service charge, but it's very fair. I feel
my sister had the exact same thing. She was in a row of houses, and she actually complained so much that she ended up being like on the board. It was one guy that owned the freeholder. She ended up going round to his house and being like, "What's going on? Like, you're taking X, Y, Z from us, but what are you doing?"
Yeah.
My sister's forced to be reckoned with.
It
but,
was nothing. Like, it was a communal path at the front and the parking area, it was not maintained.
No,
it was
it was
nothing.
awful. But she took it upon herself and contacted him, refused to pay, went round, had a conversation with him, and then she became like in charge of all the residents.
Yeah.
Sort of got them all together and made a deal. But that doesn't happen on Kent Island.
And on small little developments of 10 properties, that's perfect. But yeah, when Kent Island, there's literally thousands of flats.
Yeah.
Thousands, hundreds.
I reckon
Got to be
close to 1,000.
Mostly flats, isn't it?
Yeah. Got to be close to thousands,
Yeah.
if not more.
There's about
Anyway.
50 in each block, maybe? No, maybe not all of
I
them.
don't know.
Anyway.
I'm curious.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Count them
Leaseholds.
next week.
Do an audit, walk around with a clipboard.
Yeah.
So leases and the ground rent is just causing me loads of problems at the moment. So
Is it fair to say obviously people charge higher for leaseholds now? Do you do that as well? Like, do you charge a higher fee for leaseholds?
I don't. I feel like I should do.
I think you should. Because ultimately, what do you charge a fee for? Your time and your work?
Yeah.
If it's taking more time and more work?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's quite, like, some leases can be fine.
Yeah.
More often than not, though, it's more work.
Yeah.
It's less money.
Yeah.
So it should charge more for it.
Excellent. So, final bit of advice on people looking to buy leaseholds. What would you give them? Don't do it.
Don't do it. No, do it. Just, someone said to me a quote before, it's read the bloody lease. And you should read the bloody lease. Like, don't assume. Get a good solicitor, pay 300 or 400 quid more for a solicitor who's going to walk you through everything so you know what you're getting yourselves into.
Find a leasehold specialist. Every solicitor's a leasehold specialist.
Yeah.
Until they're not.
Until
So
they
cool.
don't deal with it.
Yeah, so cool.
Awesome. Well, it kind of segues a little bit on because we're talking about leases and regulations. But this topic of conversation I've heard, I mean, to be honest with you, it's been talked about for the last few years about regulating estate agents, because at the moment you can come fresh out of school, stick your hand in the air and say, I want to be an estate agent, and you can probably get a job.
Or start your own business.
You could literally walk out of school, bank mum and dad, say, give me some money, I want to start my own estate agency with no experience, and you could literally do it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked a lot about the industry being like not as well thought after as some maybe places like America or Australia, where it's actually a profession, whereas we're not.
Yeah.
And no one necessarily wants to be an estate agent. It just happens for most people. What's your views? Do you think it should be regulated in the sense that to trade as an estate agent, you have to be qualified, you have to be up to date with your licensing, whatever it may be, even paying an annual subscription fee to make sure you're still registered? Because I know you've got ALA and you've got NAEA as a qualification, but you don't have to. What do you think?
I don't think it would be a bad thing, but I personally don't think it solves a lot of the problems that a estate agency has. You know, like overvaluing and lack of accountability, like those kinds of problems which affect the industry. I don't think it solves that, really. I think it's good, and I think any good agent does their own professional development anyway.
Of course.
I'm not sure, you know, like in America, that you sit a real estate exam based upon the state you're in.
Yeah.
Which, from what I understand, is not particularly complicated. And then you do that once, and then you maybe do refreshers once a year. but it's not like it's this huge block to get, this huge barrier to getting into the industry. So I think what's going to make more difference is everyone being self-employed and therefore accountable.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think they'd be good to have some sort of thing in place as a qualification, though. That
just a baseline.
Yeah. You have to do it just to give, more than anything, just to give the estate agency industry a bit more credibility.
Yeah. So at least there's some like a hoop to jump through before you can go out.
And they might get rid of some of the chuff as well, like the poor estate agents, and stop people just getting in it for a free meal ticket.
Yeah.
But then again, are they the problem? The people coming in at the bottom of the industry, like the 19, 20, 21-year-olds starting out their career, they're not the issue, are they?
No.
It's the people that have been there for 15, 20 years that have...
that aren't teaching them what they're supposed to be doing.
Teaching them the old way.
Yeah, it's the baby boomers with 10 offices who are, it's that office setup that we talk about so much. It's so bad. Yeah. So I just think people being self-employed, it means that your reputation is all you have, right?
Absolutely.
So you're going to do the right thing, and then that improves the industry.
Yeah.
I think that would improve the industry more than just having
it. Interesting to know how many people are actually self-employed over employed estate agency. What the percentage is? Because I reckon it's less than 5% of the industry is self-employed.
Yeah.
But you can see the numbers. What's your thoughts? Because obviously you were Arla qualified. Do you think that made a difference?
I don't know. I think lettings and sales are quite different in the sense that in lettings it's so fast paced and things change so much and you have to know things.
Yeah.
However, with Arla, you only redo it, I think it's once a year. You do 3 exams and then you sort of have to pay a subscription. If you don't pay the subscription, then you can't keep the qualification, which is kind of...
It's how they make the money.
It's how they make the money, but also it's not holding you accountable to do what they've told you. There's no accountability. You can still do what you want. Even you can slap Arla registered on your thing. It doesn't mean you have to do it. And I've worked for agents that don't do it. And I've said, well, I've just learnt this. And they're like, no, we don't do that. And you're like, well...
Well, even though that's like the Arla, like...
Yeah. And I think, especially over the since COVID and things, renting has changed. It's flipped completely. And I think agents need to be held responsible to keep up with things.
I agree. I think lettings is different as well.
Yeah,
because it is more relevant. Like on the sales side, it's for solicitors who really deal with
that need to be
stuff.
On the ball. Yeah.
Whereas I guess with lettings, actually the agent does need to know.
Yeah, because I think you have a duty of care to the people that you're putting into houses.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely has shifted. Like when I first started in lettings, it was almost like the landlord always won. But now the landlord never wins. Yeah. I personally would never, ever be a landlord anymore.
We're literally going to start a property investment company in the next 3 years. We've already talked about.
Well, Soph says the same thing. She says the idea of having tenants just makes us so nervous.
I think I did it for about 10 years and I saw so many bad things and it kind of like loses trust in people, and I don't think I'd ever be able to trust that someone, not even look after my home, but...
This conversation's gone in a slightly different tangent, which is cool. But
sorry.
No, it's not at all.
We'll do lettings next week, though. It's a good topic.
I actually want to ask a quick question. Rather than, if you bought a property as a buy-to-let investor, do you think it'd be better to buy something that you can rent out as Airbnb?
No, I did Airbnb as well. No,
really?
Absolutely not. The turnover, and then you get bad reviews, or you don't do it. People on Airbnb, they expect such a high standard, and...
But if you deliver that product...
I feel like it's more work than it's worth to do that. Maybe long-term B&B, but when it's like 2 days, 3 days, and you're going in and you're deep cleaning and you're changing bedding and you're cleaning the bathrooms, it's
if you pay a company to do... Anyway, okay.
I've always been intrigued by that business model.
Yeah,
because Airbnb is...
I've done it with a company. We tried it. It was more rooms. The rooms went on or the house went on. And in all honesty, it was horrible.
Was that because
Maybe it's because it was me that failed to make it nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where it went wrong.
I think I generally think if you sat down properly and worked out what does a Airbnb occupant really want, and work out the best, and then put a plan in place, whether it be cleaners going in regularly. Or whatever the situation works.
No, I think that's fair. I think because it was literally just me and one other person, and I was the one doing the
Are you changing the sheets and stuff?
Changing sheets.
Oh, fuck that.
Like, you find stuff... Like, I'm not a
Oh.
cleaner, so maybe that's where it fell short, because I didn't want to do it.
Have you seen there's a meme where it's like people who go to the Airbnb and it's like, you must check out at 8 a.m, you must leave a place clean and tidy, and it's like the hotel below. It's like, oh, checkouts at 11, free breakfast. Like, and Airbnb started, right, as just renting a room or as quite like a personal thing, and it's turned into this corporate, like,
commercialised industry.
Commercial landlord.
There's some hotels on there.
Yeah.
There are hotels on Airbnb as well. Like, you can tell when you look at it. But yeah, landlords and things.
Interesting.
I think long-term Airbnb, or like a week plus, would be okay. But I think, and also I think with Airbnb, it has to be the right location.
Yeah.
It needs to be like a holiday location or a work location. You can't just have
a 2-bed terrace and
a random house.
I don't think it's...
No, I agree. It might be an interesting topic we could have in the next couple of weeks, actually, the benefits of rental properties or Airbnb, and looking a bit more.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued.
Yeah, absolutely. And here he is.
Hello.
Here he is, Georgie.
Hello.
Anyway, have you got any stories from this week since we last spoke? Because obviously we did a funny story episode. They went down really well, actually, all the reels that have gone out. If you haven't seen them, check them out on the socials.
Who was your favourites, did you say?
No, hands... My favourite story, I think the funniest story, was probably Kyle. But
yeah.
I do, watching them back, I do think the way stories are delivered...
That's true.
Dan Salisbury one about the... it hasn't been posted yet. It posted today, but this will already be out by then. The way he delivered the story, I think, really added to the comical factor.
True.
See, I think Ollie... I think working with Ollie and knowing Ollie, and imagine him
falling down the stairs.
Down those stairs. I could just imagine his face, and I could. For me, you know, when you can imagine something happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, what's happened to you this week? Any funny stories or anything that's worth discussing?
Did you see my screenshot in the group the other day of the offer that I got by text?
No, I didn't.
I'd done this viewing.
I might have seen it.
I'd done this viewing, which was outside of Reading.
Yeah.
You probably know where I'm going
to.
And just dealing with buyers there is just the worst, because I've had so many verbal offers, and I'm like, great, I just need your mortgage in principle and your proof of deposit.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's given me this information. They're like, no, you just speak to landlord and let me know. I'm like, no, I need to see this information. And anyway, I got one text message from a buyer, just goes, hi, my first offer is this, my second offer is that. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
I did see that.
Did you just take the second offer?
Well, we went straight to third offer, yeah.
Yeah, well, like, again, that's just... Whether it's buyer's naivety, I mean, maybe we just put across that we're trustworthy people. We are absolutely out for everyone, but at the same time, we do work for the seller.
This was a buy-to-let purchaser, though.
So it's not stupid.
With 20% deposit to put down, which is about 100 grand.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not...
My first offer is X. My second offer will be Y. Great. Hi, seller, I've got an offer of Y.
It just blows my mind how... I just don't know how any houses get sold there, just because it's so much fucking around. But anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah, I did see that. It was quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put a screenshot on.
Do you think, though, that buyers, I've noticed coming back into doing viewings, I don't know what I was trying to say there, buyers at the moment have, or feel like they have more knowledge?
Yeah, that's been the case progressively over the last few years, because
they
there's
come
so
in
much...
with their list.
Yeah.
Dad said to check this. Oh, there's a little bit of this there. Oh, you just think, oh.
And also, there's so much information online. Like, you can see what people pay for it. You know what the house down the road is selling for.
Which is good. I think people, obviously, they're entitled to know what they're buying. But sometimes it just grates on you. You think, well, if you live in a house, I know that, yes, that bathroom ceiling's mouldy, but generally all bathroom ceiling gets mouldy after time. There's a window in the bathroom, so I can replace. Like, I think as a homeowner now, maybe I know...
Take a view.
Yeah, but I feel like, especially first-time buyers, they have this list from mum and dad, and they expect everything to be perfect, and I don't think you can ever buy a perfect home.
This is why I think it's a massive, massive point when we're talking to people, but doing viewings with experienced estate agents is key to getting the best price for your house, because there's some things that come up where buyers quiz you with information, and if you don't know your shit, and you don't know what you're talking about...
It's a bit like the roof at the house that we were talking about the offer. Like, you were able to say, well, because did the chimney collapse on one of the houses or something? And you were like, well,
no, but he was buying another house, and basically they'd taken the chimney out, so taken it out at each level, but not reinforced the roof, and the chimney breast was still in the roof and on the top.
Right.
I was like, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because I know for a fact that you can't do that, because obviously there's nothing holding the chimney up, it's going to collapse. But someone who, and then nothing wrong, we all start when we're younger, but someone who's 18, 19 years old, if that was discussed, they wouldn't know what the repercussions are with that, because they haven't got the experience.
I mean, that's why people have surveys and things like that, but what's the point in getting all the way to a survey if at the start
you could have just found out?
Does that make sense? It
Makes
wastes
sense, yeah.
6 months of your, well, however long solicitors are. Yeah.
That's why getting to know the house is something. I mean, we obviously take more time to do it now because we're the only people dealing with it.
Well, we did our first house that we were a bit umming and ahhing whether, from experience, you looked at the roof of the house and we looked at the condition of the house, and there was major issues with that house, and we knew that it would be pulled up on a survey.
Yeah.
So we sort of said, cool, well, before we even take it on the market, you need to get a survey done, because we know that...
And we lost that. We lost the instruction.
But I guarantee when that sale goes through, it's going to get flagged up. The other agent wouldn't have said that.
Yeah,
it had no fascia. Like the roof, the tiles had collapsed off the side of the roof. The gutter was hanging off, and there was no fascia. It was all rotten.
Yeah.
And the
chimney was like that.
seller even said, "Oh yeah, we get a leak through into the ceiling that comes through from the wall." I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "What's your fee?" I was like, 2.5%. That's a lot higher than everyone else.
We didn't say that.
I know.
We said we'd do it, but we need to tell people that unless you're going to fix it, we need to tell people because it's going to come out.
Yeah, that's what's so difficult though now, isn't it? Is that we're, giving that right advice, but knowing there's so many other people.
Come across as the bad guys, but it will bite them on the behind. The other agents that don't care.
Yeah. And their little £2,000 fee, they'll get anyway. But they don't care.
What's it called when you... Sales progression. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
We do that.
Progressing the sale?
Yeah. No, but what are the people called that do it? Sales
progressors.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. That, when an agent at 19, you sell a house, you then pass all the paperwork to someone else and you just crack on.
Yeah.
But we have to deal with it.
Yeah. It's a one-stop shop, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't open your eyes, and as you said with the leasehold transactions, you might go to the next valuation that's leasehold and say, actually, it's going to be a little bit more because I know it's going to be an issue here. Whereas some 22, 23-year-old valuer from another corporate agent will be like, no problem at all, it's not my problem, get sold, this, that and the other. Yeah. I don't know why it's cockney, but...
Let the admin deal with it, but then they won't deal with it, they don't have time to deal with it.
No. They've hit their targets, they've hit their KPIs, what does it matter?
Yeah.
So, especially like in big agents, like they don't have enough people to push the sales through. People don't get called back, they don't have the experience, it's just admin, but it's not admin. Yeah. You should know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I've been in a few chains with self-employed agents the last couple of weeks. It's been really nice.
Yeah.
Because everyone's on the same team.
Yeah.
Well, I had that one. Your auntie and uncle's sale up the road. There was a self-employed agent at the bottom of the chain, and the first thing he did, we talked about it, didn't we? Set up a email chain with the 3 agents involved, and each Monday we just updated everything that was happening. It went for in 9 weeks.
That's what I mean by self-employed agents. I think would improve the industry more than regulation.
100%. Yeah.
It's a really, really good point. Actually, I've actually got the.
It's got the one bit.
I've got the partner chat tonight, and that was the topic I put forward. So.
Okay. There's some ammunition.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
Are you going to quote Matt, or are you just going to take it all for yourself?
No, I'm going to take it 100% myself.
I'll be there in the comments section.
I'll hold a sign up behind his head.
I'll just delete the comment as it comes in.
Like the what are they called? The air quotes. I'll just put them behind.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
This is my view.
Which I've been thinking about a lot today.
Well, I always plug it. I'll say, actually, funny enough, I was talking to Matt Barrell on the Living Room Chat podcast.
And I said...
Links in the description.
Yeah.
And Matt said, I agree with him, this was the point.
That is a good way to plug it, to be fair.
Right, Loz, we need more viewers, more listeners, more subscribers. So we need a story from you, like your feet story or something like that, just so we can plug. Go.
That's on the spot.
That's really horrible.
That's really on the spot.
What, just a general story? What, from my past working with you? I've got lots of stories about working with you.
No, just something that's going to get the viewers in.
Did you guys work together before the avocado?
We worked for the same company, but never in the same office. They wouldn't put us together.
Obviously.
Too busy. Absolutely not. It would take much time out of our day, would it? I have got a story that I don't know 100. Well, it's a horror story that we were told at one of the first agencies I worked for.
Go.
And it sort of resonated with me. Someone went to do a viewing at a house and got caught short, so we went to the toilet. Number 2. Went to flush it. The water wasn't turned on, so he had to use his hands to carry it outside.
No.
But he bumped into the viewers. He was just holding shit. So he had to. I don't know. It's just a story that stuck with me forever. And you know, when you get caught short and you have to use the toilet, I just don't.
Brilliant. Well, that's exactly the clip I wanted.
Never go to the toilet in someone's house.
I think one of my viewers did a number 2.
Was it a kid?
In the viewing. No, it was a full-grown adult male. And we were coming to the end of the viewing, and I like to let people, do you want to do another lap around? Like, let them go upstairs and have a look.
Go-kart track. Yeah. Go on, have another
Bonus lap.
50p, go around again. And when I went, after they'd left, I heard the water running in the toilet upstairs. I thought, that wasn't running when we were in here.
You swung open the door. Oh, fuck it, that stinks.
Yeah, and I was like, has he just literally run upstairs, had like a stealth poo, like a fast one?
That's pretty, impressive, though, to be able to, ninja in and out without anyone knowing.
Yeah. But it just made me feel really uneasy. I was like...
Yeah.
I've got a funny story for next week. I'm going to write, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to write it down on my notes for next week's episode.
Well, I'm not going to be here. Can you just tell me?
No, you have to watch the episode to find out.
Why can't you just say it now?
No, we need to leave... Look,
we've probably gone over time, haven't we?
Good podcast, leave a cliffhanger. There you go. I've got a great story for next week.
So tune in.
And it's embarrassing for me.
Nice.
I've got loads of stories about you.
It's all good content for the following weeks.
Call that a wrap, shall we?
Cool. Nice. So we'll be back next week with episode 22. Getting well on our way to our 40 by the end of the year. So find us on your platform of choice. We'll be back next week. This has been Matt, Ryan and Lauren on the Living Room Chat podcast. Love you. Bye.